What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. In this video, we're going to be talking about how will Filip Chytil perform, what are his goals and expectations going into 2025-26. I guess you could say at this present time, Filip Chytil is our second line center. Or is he? Now, we're going to go over that in a separate video following this, so stay tuned for that. But in this one, we're going to be going over how he will perform and what our goals and expectations are in 2025-26. But before we do that, as I always do, I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of this amazing artwork you see here behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at gassjacart.com. You can also check him out on Instagram at Gassy Jack Art. There is a link to his website in the description down below. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the goals and expectations for Filip Chytil. We're going to be going over an article from our friends at Canucks Army. And then at the end, I'll give my goals and expectations at the very end. But without any further ado, as I said, let's go ahead and check this out. There might not be a more interesting player than Filip Chytil for Vancouver Canucks fans to keep an eye on in 2025-26. Arriving as a key piece in return for JT Miller, the Czech centerman had definitely lost a bit of luster that he had after a 45-point campaign in 2022-23. Spending time with injury concerns and a multitude of concussions, it was almost cruelly fitting that another concussion would knock him out of the rest of the 24-25 season. But during that 15-game stretch in Vancouver last season, there were flashes of a player there. The motor, the speed, and the hockey IQ were all on display, with the Czech looking like one of the most dynamic Canucks on any given night that he played. Chytil definitely still has room to grow as well at 25 years old, and the Canucks are definitely looking for him to reach the ceiling they see in him. So what exactly are his goals and expectations going into 2025-26, which I believe is a great question. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to Chytil and his health. Obviously, a lot of throughout this summer, a lot of people have been asking about Chytil and his offseason and his training. Now, we did a previous video where Chytil himself went on the 100% Canucks podcast, and he spoke about his offseason training. Obviously, there was very positive signs, talking about him, working on his neck, his shoulders, his brother being a strength coach, and them focusing on that. And that he is 100% healthy going into this season, barring any, injuries in training camp in a couple of weeks, knock on wood. But he is healthy going into the season. So obviously, Canuck fans are very optimistic about him. Some Canuck fans are maybe still pretty hesitant about him as well. But let's take a look at what meeting expectations are for Filip Chytil. Obviously, staying healthy, between 20 to 25 goals, 40 to 45 points, and a consistent middle six forward. With Vancouver needing a solid presence down the middle going into the season, Chytil has a perfect opportunity to leave an impression. This also means being available to play this year, and staying healthy will be the best ability that he can show for the Canucks. Having him in the lineup already brings a lot of energy and spark whenever he's on the ice, and that will be essential as the Canucks look to actually make the playoffs this go-round. Being healthy also gives Chytil a chance to break the 60-game mark since the 2022-23 season, after injuries hampered him in 23-24 and 24-25. That will give him the best possible chance to reestablish his production, return to the level he was at, and put up the points that a middle six forward should be expected to. It wasn't as if Chytil wasn't particularly bad in his stint with the Canucks at the end of last year. It was more so that he just looked like he was getting into a groove before having his season shut down with an injury. Obviously, everyone remembers that being the dirty hit from Jason Dickinson from behind, which I still to this day think should have been a suspension. But that's a tale for another time. Hopefully, with more time to assimilate and more actual game time, the production will rebound to pre-injury levels for a player who is still young and could possibly develop into a more important piece down the line. That is one thing I think a lot of people don't realize with Chytil. He's so young. It's hard to believe he's had so many concussions, before the age of 30. He's younger than me by about 10 years almost. And it's crazy to think that someone who's, in their mid-20s has already had so many concussions and has not been able to stay healthy. It just blows my mind. Let's take a look at what exceeding expectations would look like. Obviously, another one, just like with the meeting expectations, healthy, a very good 2-seat behind Elias Pettersson, and a bump up from 40 to 45 points to 50 to 60 points. The JT Miller trade very much signaled that management was handing the forward group over to Elias Pettersson as the team's 1C. That leaves the aforementioned gap on the second line vacant, and while Chytil definitely slots in there, what if he elevated his play to match that role even more? Exceeding expectations for the Czech forward would be establishing himself as one of the better second-line centers around the league. Chytil would hopefully contribute at both ends of the ice as he has been, while also seeing an uptick in production. Ideally, the rest of the team would also be able to play better than they did last year. However, if Chytil can drive play in the way he has shown flashes of doing and can do so consistently on the second line, the Canucks could be in a very good spot. If not, as if the player himself lacks the confidence to execute these things as well. Chytil himself has said that he likes scoring and knows that he can score more. Obviously, he mentioned that in that 100% Canucks interview. There's much to improve on, and we'll get a better idea of his level of play once training camp and the preseason roll around. But if he can take that next step of development in his game at the same time that he's getting healthy, Vancouver's forward lines became a lot less of a question mark. Now let's take a look at more below expectations. Injured third line forward, 20 to 30 points. Probably the worst case scenario for Filip Chytil would be getting hurt again, whether that's any type of injury. Even worse if it were to be another concussion, as a lot of people have said. They even said when he had this most recent concussion that he is essentially one concussion away from his career being over at the age of 25. With his injury and concussion history, there is a realistic possibility that his career might be cut short due to these concerns, as I just mentioned. And if he doesn't, the fear of regression is always present. What if it leads to unfulfilled potential or a more tentative play style? For the Canucks, if Chytil were to only be a third-line forward and produce at best 30 points, it's going to be a disappointment. That's doubly disappointing considering he was the main piece of the Miller trade, and not even coming close to being a contributing member of the Canucks would definitely hurt now and into the future. It is something that unfortunately is a potential concern and would also probably spell the end of this contending core. Ideally, no players ever dip below the expected level, but not just from the Canucks standpoint. The personal life aspect for Chytil would also be of concern, particularly regarding his quality of life outside of hockey. So let's take a look at goals for Filip Chytil in 25-26. Establish himself as a second liner for the Canucks, stay healthy, produce at 2022-23 levels, maybe a step up, improve at both ends of the ice, become a reliable presence in the lineup, possible special teams deployment on both power play and penalty kill. For 25-26, it'll be interesting to see what Chytil brings, especially after a full offseason and entering the year with a training camp and preseason with the Canucks. He has made media appearances and said many encouraging things, and hopefully a good chunk of them will manifest positively this upcoming season. The biggest key of all is the health aspect. If Chytil can stay healthy, his baseline already improves the Canucks in a wide variety of dimensions. That health will also go a long way to his development as a player, one that can hopefully lock down and cement Vancouver's second line, anchoring it to be one of the better top sixes across the league. The Canucks are going to contend and make noise in the regular season, as well as keep Quinn Hughes around. Becoming a legitimate playoff team, Chytil will be a significant reason. The skill, the motor, and the talent are already there. Now it's time to see what he can bring in a larger role with more time to play and develop. So that is the article on Canucks Army from Michael Liu. And as far as my goals and expectations for Filip Chytil, I am hovering around the meeting expectations, slightly over meeting expectations. I could see him getting, maybe at least 50 points this upcoming year. Like I'm kind of in the mushy middle between meeting and exceeding. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, despite all of what he said recently has definitely changed my outlook on him and given me more hope that he can have a great season and that he can stay healthy. Before he did that interview with 100% Canucks with John Shannon and Landon Ferraro, my expectations were very low for Filip Chytil, I will admit. But having, watched that interview and heard what he said definitely changed it a little bit and got me, being a lot more optimistic for Filip Chytil. But these are the goals and expectations from Canucks Army for Filip Chytil. Obviously, let's actually real quick bring up Filip Chytil's stats. So I'm going to share this screen for you guys, just so you guys can see it as well. Hang on. Share screen. Wait for it to come up. Filip Chytil. So here you go. Filip Chytil. Filip Chytil, as some of you may know, some of you may not know, as we mentioned, 25 years old. His birthday is actually coming up in a few days. So happy early birthday to Filip Chytil. Obviously, he was a 2017 first-round pick by the New York Rangers, 21st overall. And it says here, from Hockey Prospect in 2017, Chytil is a dynamic offensive player. He's able to play the game at high speeds and excels when he has the puck in open space. Obviously, we saw that when he was traded to the Canucks. Looking down to his first official season with the Rangers, 9 games, 3 points, 1 goal, 2 assists. Went down to the AHL, put up 31 points in the AHL. And then his first official full season with the Rangers in 2018-2019, 23 points in 75 games. Obviously not that great, but you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. It was only his first full season. 2019-2020, 60 games, 23 points, 14 goals, 9 assists. 2020-2021, which was the pandemic shortened season, 22 points in 42 games, 8 goals, 14 assists. And then you go down to 21-22, 22 points in 67 games, 8 goals, 14 assists. And then this is where you see his big season. 2022-23, as was mentioned in the article, 45 points in 74 games, 22 goals, 23 assists. Obviously, that right there is what meeting expectations would be. Obviously, the Canucks want him to be better. And as I mentioned, my expectation is for him to get past the 50-point mark, perhaps maybe 55, or at least come close to 60 points. That would be absolutely amazing if he were able to do that. Then obviously you see the 23-24. He only played 10 games and had 6 points, which were all assists. He did not score a goal. And then last year, he only played 41 games for the Rangers, 20 points in 41 games, 11 goals, 9 assists. And of course, as was mentioned, only played 15 games for the Canucks before he suffered that concussion and had 6 points in 15, 2 goals, 4 assists. So obviously, the Canucks are looking for more from Filip Chytil. Let me just get rid of that. Second here. There we go. All right. So those are your goals and expectations for Filip Chytil. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are your goals and expectations for Filip Chytil? Do you think he will be the Canucks' 2C at the start of the season? As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing a video talking about where there's going to be a battle for the second line center position between Filip Chytil and Aatu Räty. After this video, I'm going to be doing that video, and that's going to come out sometime tomorrow. As of the recording of this, it's September 2nd. So be on the lookout for that video. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. As you can see there, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer a audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated and really helps out the podcast. But that's going to do it for me. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.